well as a PDF of the slides. Before we begin, I'd like to just go over some of the programs that Stuckey & Company offers. This is the slide you're seeing here. The Safety Tech program is an insurance program for the technology industry. The hook on the coverage hook is a professional liability, but we also write property, GL, workers' comp, commercial auto, bonds, umbrella, you name it, all the property casualty coverages for technology companies of all types. The Harbor Guard program is an insurance program for marinas and boat dealerships. The Harbor Guard program is really where Stuckey & Company started 25 years ago, and we still have the program available pretty much nationwide. Some of the areas we still have some issues with are the places you would expect: Florida, some of the coastal areas, southern coast, the Gulf Coast, and up northeast. The Aspire A&E program is an insurance program for architects and engineers. Our miscellaneous program, MPL program, is an insurance program for miscellaneous professional liability, and we have about 350 classes there. The surplus lines program is for anything that falls outside of our commercial lines program through admitted markets, specifically the Hartford, such as the one we're talking about today. The Servicer Pro program is for the appliance repair industry, Element for the green energy industry, and we do home, auto, boat, and high-value home under our personal lines department. And of course, the commercial lines, we do BOP, comp, auto, bonds, EPLI, D&O, and all of those things under the commercial lines program. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce Pam Obenchain with the Hartford. And she can take us through the select customer, small commercial definitions, thresholds, and appetite.
Great. Thanks, Dwight. And just to introduce myself, as Dwight said, my name is Pam Obenchain. I'm with the Hartford's agency education team. We are responsible for training our agents on pretty much whatever they need, whether it's something like this, where we do a quick overview of our appetite and thresholds, or full-on systems training and how to quote, or product, or whatever it might be. That's kind of my role within the Hartford. And of course, I partner very frequently with the sales rep that is on the line as well, Tracy Hagee-Kelly. So what we're going to do is this morning we're going to talk, as Dwight mentioned, about the Hartford's appetite, definition, and threshold. And Dwight, I've just been made a presenter. Is that what was supposed to happen here?
I did make you the presenter.
Okay, I did.
Want me to take? I can take it back and just change the slides for you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't have the PowerPoint up on my side.
Oh, that's okay. Okay, there you go. Sorry about that.
No problem. Thanks. Okay, so if we want to move to the next slide. Well, you can skip that one. We already know the phone lines are muted. And this one. So we were talking here about asking questions online. This is a brief presentation, and we will have time for a Q&A at the end. But, you do have a chat feature online, so you can always chat your questions if you think of something while I'm talking, and you're afraid maybe you might forget it. So what we're going to talk about in this brief session, we're going to go through what small commercial means at the Hartford, because the definition that we use might be different than what you think of. We're also going to talk about our thresholds that feed into that definition. And we're going to touch on some of the key targeted industries that the Hartford is really wanting to write these days. And I know Tracy can chime in on where she's seeing a lot of success in those industries as well. And of course, the point of all of this is to help you increase your production and revenue with the Hartford. Okay, so let's move forward. So when I talk about small commercial, a lot of times people define that by size of premium, and we don't do it that way. What we look at are different criteria. So you can see on the screen here, in Spectrum, which is our BOP product, we look at annual sales per location and property values per location. For workers' comp, we look at payroll, and for commercial auto, we look at the power unit. So that's the big thing that you need to keep in mind with the Hartford. It's not so much about size of premium. It's about these other definitions that we're looking at. We can have premium of up to $100,000 in small commercial. So it's all about these thresholds that we're looking at. So on this slide, and I know this is a tough slide to read on a webinar, so I'll just kind of go over a few highlights with you. And we can send you guys this sheet out as a follow-up. I think, Dwight, you mentioned you were going to do that. So you guys will have this. But these are the thresholds that we look at. So on the previous slide when I was talking about, kind of the criteria that we're looking at, whether it's annual sales or property values, it does vary depending on the classification. So on the top of this slide, you can see it's by line of business. The top is Spectrum. Again, that's our BOP. And you can see, I'm just going to point out a few things. For example, manufacturing risks. We can go up to $7.5 million in sales for a manufacturing risk. And we can go up to $15 million in property value. Those are pretty high thresholds for the small commercial arena. So a lot of times what happens is you may be thinking, well, I'm really specializing in the mid-market types of accounts, and the low end of your mid-market overlaps with the top end of our small. So a lot of times there is that area where we can really, work on it in the small commercial area. Going back to these thresholds, you can also see architects and engineers, veterinarians, interior decorators. We're looking at payroll. That's one of the ways that we define it. So in that area, we're looking at about $6 million in payroll, and again, up to about $20 million in property. Another area, contractors. We get a lot of these. Contractors and janitorial, $1 million in payroll, and again, up to $20 million in property value. Switching to workers' comp, again, we look at annual payroll amounts for workers' comp. And in the middle there, you can see professional services and financial services are $9 million in payroll. We also have things like technology, manufacturing, personal services, that's $6 million in payroll. So again, these are the upward limits of small commercial. So as long as your account values are lower than the stated threshold, it's considered small commercial. And really the bottom line is that can be processed online very quickly that way. Commercial auto is pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of variance. It's 25 autos. And you'll notice on the slide it actually says power units rather than vehicles. And the reason we specify power units is because there are times when you might have like a trailer that has its own power. So that would count as a power unit. So anything that has its own power is considered a unit, and that's the maximum of 25 for auto. Okay, so if we could move forward, we'll talk a little bit more about our appetite. Now the thing with the Hartford is, being a national carrier, our appetite is very broad. In fact, we write, as you can see on the screen, over 880 different class codes. So we have an appetite for a lot of things. I highlighted some of the things that we're looking at on the slide. So just starting at the top, business and professional services. And what I mean by that are, we always joke about people who go to work in a tie. Those are the kind of people we're looking to write under the professional services. So doctors, attorneys, accountants, those are the kinds of people we're targeting there. Personal services, things like day spas, beauty shops, nail shops, things like that. We're looking to write those. Personally, I qualify under personal services things like dry cleaners. That may, technically, I think underwriting may put that someplace else, but that's also another personal services that we will write. And then, of course, retail. Manufacturing, we are writing a lot of manufacturing risks. Restaurants, last fall, we opened up our underwriting guidelines on restaurants, and we are looking to write more restaurants these days. Now, a few things about restaurants. We want to write restaurants, not bars. And the difference is, I think it's fairly obvious when you walk into one, you know, but a few things to keep in mind. If they have things like a cover charge or drink specials or live entertainment, that's going to designate it more as a bar to us, and we're not really looking to write those. We're really looking to write restaurants. Now, we're fine with liquor sales in restaurants, and we can get into more detail about that with your underwriter or with Tracy. But that's one of the big differences here is we're looking at restaurants who serve mostly food, some alcohol, not a bar that really is just pushing the alcohol and the live entertainment and things like that. Also with restaurants, we do want to have 3 years under the same ownership for a restaurant. So keep that in mind. Brand new startups. For a BOP, we're not really looking to do that. So we want 3 years under the same ownership for most restaurants. We do waive that 3-year rule if it's a franchise. So, you know, the latest McDonald's opens up in town. We're fine with that. It's a franchise. We also will waive that 3-year rule for restaurant workers' comp. And speaking of that, we do write monoline workers' comp. So we actually write everything monoline. We will do monoline BOP, auto, workers' comp. So you don't have to write everything. Obviously, we would like it if you want to put all